Before we release you and invite you to come party with us VCS style, whatever that means, you'll find out. We have a really kind of important and wonderful award to present and announce. I'm supposed to come up here and just hand the mic off, but I'm not going to do that because we are going to thank someone who usually tries to run out of the room every time she is thanked. So by all means, the face and focus of this day is about the students and all of their amazing work and research. But this symposium and probably the program would not exist or even come together or stay together without the endless hours and hours and hours of behind the scenes work that, especially for this event, begins even the semester before this symposium happens. Kate Angelo, who is our program manager, spends tireless amounts of time putting this program together. She's fearless, she's patient, and her level of work and dedication to the department, to the students, to the faculty, to the college are beyond words. She continually surprises us by her endless care and efforts. So please, another round of applause for Kate.
Now sit down. Let me do my fun part here, because this really is about you guys. I am so honored and was honored to be asked by this cohort to introduce a new tradition to our annual VCS Spring Symposium. Like many of our best ideas, this initiative came from the students. This year's graduating cohort was looking for a way to especially mark today and this pivotal transition in their academic career. For a minute, there was talk about inviting a rock star from the field to address us at this event today. And yes, there are rock stars in the field of visual and critical studies. Donna Haraway was unavailable. But the students realized that what would best accomplish their goal and make this moment truly meaningful would be to invite a rock star from within our ever-expanding VCS alumni community. And so the VisCrit Alumni Award has been established to recognize and honor an alum whose career after graduation exemplifies the central mission, as Terza mentioned this morning during her opening remarks, of the VCS program, a strong commitment to both diversity and social justice through the critical analysis of and innovative writing about the visual landscape. This award acknowledges the dedication and commitment required to shape a career and sustain a vibrant practice after leaving the supportive structure of the academic environment. At its core, this award celebrates the diverse ways VCS graduates mobilize the skills they've honed and the conversations they began while at CCA, evidencing the versatility of this degree and the luminosity of this community. So through a nomination and selection process, the graduating class chose to recognize an alum whose practice embodies the values and achievements they themselves want to claim as markers and anchoring points as they make this transition from students to alumni and chart their own career paths in the field of visual and critical studies. As this award will become part of this exceptional cohort's legacy, I'd like to ask you all to join me here on stage and invite Emily Holmes to present the inaugural VisCrit Alumni Award.
All right, I am so pleased to introduce Adrienne Skye Roberts for our inaugural VisCrit Alumni Award on the behalf of the entire cohort. It is no small task to summarize the variety of Adrienne's accomplishments before, during, and after her years at CCA. So I will instead focus on just a few elements of Adrienne's work in order to illuminate why we found her the ideal recipient of this award. When Adrienne describes her work as intersecting the crossroads of art, education, and social justice organizing, the simplicity of this statement stands out to me for a few reasons. One, it is a very succinct way to explain her multiple role in fields that are far more complicated than the sentence can express. Two, for many scholars, artists, and activists, these paths never cross in a truly satisfying or intersectional way. It is this unrelenting merging of fields that are far too often portrayed as unrelated, or worse, at odds with each other, that makes Adrienne an exemplary of the core values of VCS. As an artist, educator, activist, curator, and writer, Adrienne's multiple practices speak to her desire to press against the boundaries of fixed categories. Challenging institutional sites is a key facet of all of her practices. The subject of her VCS thesis interrogated the visual and racial landscape of post-Hurricane Katrina, focusing on volunteer activists who traveled there to help rebuild. Adrienne was one such volunteer herself and pointedly did not write as a detached, impartial observer. Likewise, the site of the Contemporary Art Gallery and the prison industrial complex are both subjects to Adrienne's sharp eye, and she is intimately involved with both of these sites. As a longtime member of the California Coalition for Women Prisoners, she works closely and collaboratively with incarcerated women and transgendered people. Her advocacy is directly tied to her artistic practice, as some of her recent artwork revolves around the ways to ensure that such marginalized voices are supported and listened to, bringing their stories of survival into and beyond art galleries. As an artist and curator, she pulls the visual language of activism into the gallery space. I had the pleasure of attending her 2010 exhibition, Suggestions of a Life Being Lived at SF Camera Work, co-curated with Danny Orendorff. I remember seeing works of diverse multimedia queer artists and then turning a corner to find a room filled with the ephemera of radical queer activist organizations. The flyers and newspapers of the Bay Area's Gay Shame organization were displayed next to the t-shirts and posters of the 1990s AIDS activist group ACT UP, all in the same room as video art, installation pieces, and photographs. VCS embraces such genre blending in which visual objects from seemingly disparate fields are always in dialogue with each other. Although these are just a few moments from her post-VCS career, they exemplify why our cohort selected Adrienne for the first ever Viz Crit Alumni Award. Please join me in welcoming and congratulating Adrienne.
What?
Yeah.
You guys, I got bronze pencils. Thank you guys so much. Can you, like, pass that? Hi, everybody. These are so cool. Thank you so much, Emily. As I hugged her, I was like, this is like my eulogy. So I'd like those notes. Not to be morbid. And thank you, class of 2014. I feel like it's such a real testament to your ingenuity and sense of community that you all developed this award in the first place. And I feel so grateful to be chosen as the first recipient. My parents are here, so it feels a lot like my thesis symposium. And yeah, I'll be brief, kind of, but I wanted to start by just recognizing the VCS department as a whole, because it's such a special place. I was a student here from 2007 to 2009, and prior to coming to VCS, I was under this false impression that I had to choose either the path of an arts and academic person or the path of a community organizer. And it was within VCS that I started to realize that that division is false and actually a construct of systems that I don't believe in.
And also that my work is strengthened by the relationship I'm building between all these different fields, between art making and politics and community organizing. And so, as I think we have all learned today, this is a department where interdisciplinary practice is not just accepted, but it's encouraged and it really thrives. As I was sitting in the audience, I'm like, this is really the only place where I'm going to hear someone talk about Chicana lesbian films and Mennonite headdresses and deep space industry all together, and they're all in conversation with each other. So that's a pretty fantastic thing. And I think what this tells us is that there's not just one road to travel, but that there are multiple overlapping roads. Also, VCS, I think, is an incredibly unique department within the school because its curricula centralizes conversations about power and conversations about privilege and conversations about oppression. And I think this is important in everything that we do, and I think it's especially important when we're producing from the site of a private art institution. And more than anything else, what VCS has that other academic departments don't, my friends. What am I going to say, you guys? Is love. I know. But I'm serious. I don't mean it flippantly. Hear me out, you guys. This is what I have to say. So in addition to our fields of study, when we're in these institutions, we learn a lot of things in our fields of study, but we also learn a lot of things that go unnamed. So I'm just going to name some of them, like sterile professionalism and scarcity and competition. And I think in VCS, this looks like people competing over who can paraphrase Judith Butler most accurately. And whoever that is should meet me at the bar later. But I'm not naive to think that VCS is totally exempt from this culture, but I think that there's a real foundation of love here that is rare and that I think is suppressed in academic institutions. And what I mean by love is a depth of feeling that's present in research, that's present in our passions for ideas, that's present in our passion and care for conversation and debate and love and real support from professors to students and from students to students. This, to me, is a feminist way of teaching. It's a queer way of teaching, which I think has a lot to do with the faculty, of course, in VCS. And I think the message here, or what we strive for, is that it's not just our minds and our brains that are valued, but that we're seen as whole people with unique relationships to power and to privilege, with complex and tender emotional landscapes, and with unique histories, and that we bring all of that with us when we learn, and we bring all of that with us when we teach. And this, to me, is teaching with the politics of love. So that's what I mean, all right? And I think there's so much power in that. So I came to this critical theory program and this art school from community organizing, like Emily said, and specifically organizing around housing rights and tenant rights. And since graduating from VCS, I've shifted my focus to the prison abolition movement and to supporting people who are organizing within prisons and supporting the survival of people who are most directly impacted by incarceration and by state violence. And I've been doing that while also maintaining ties to the art world through writing and teaching and curating and participating in various exhibitions. So the questions that drive my practice and that keep me up very late at night are, what is the role of the artist in movements for justice, and how can we use visual culture and critical frameworks to not only make a political issue more visible, but to actually affect systemic change. So this is what I've been thinking about over the last 4 years as I move between spaces such as the California state prisons to the universities where I'm sometimes hired to teach when they don't have a budget freeze, to the county jail in San Francisco, which is not too far from here, to galleries and museums and environments similar to this one. So this is not an easy space to navigate all the time. The path is not always clear, as I'm sure you can imagine. And sometimes, often, I'm sent back into feeling like I have to make those divisions within myself in order to move forward or make sense or succeed. And that's when I think about VCS, honestly, and remember the lesson learned here, which is that where there is no bridge, you build one, and we make the way by walking. So part of this, what this looks like for me, is that I'm taking the lessons that I'm learning from people who I visit inside prison and allowing that to influence what I teach to young artists. It means that I'm often a bridge between artists in the Bay Area who are just now finally feeling the effects of gentrification and redevelopment to organizing that's been happening in the city forever, led by working class people, led by people of color. And what it means for me most prominently right now is through a project that I'm working on that is with the organization that I'm a part of that Emily mentioned, California Coalition for Women Prisoners. And it's a multimedia storytelling project that I'm creating in partnership with people who are sentenced to life without parole in California's women's prisons. And it started from their organizing and their calls for help and more support from outside. And so together we're in the process of creating audio recordings, photographs, letters, interviews that will make visible this population's struggle and carry their words beyond those prison walls. If there's one thing that I have learned about prisons, and there are many, many things I've learned, it's that they disappear people. And with this particular population of people, their sentences are considered so severe, life without parole, which is essentially a sentence to die in prison, that they're constantly left out of any political campaign. So the goal of this project is not just to create a visual storytelling platform or to create a critical dialogue around these sentences, but to actually use culture to shift politics. So this is the same website and publication that we will build with all of these audio recordings and interviews and photographs will be used to educate people, will be used to organize people, and will hopefully end up on the desks of legislators who have the power to give these people another chance at freedom. So there's no roadmap to this kind of thing and this kind of practice, and I've made my way here by walking. And some of the roads that have led me to this work started here in VCS, including how to research, what are the right questions to ask, how to publicly speak. It started also here by reading Foucault's theories of the panopticon, and then later seeing those theories actually take form around me in prisons and jails. From conversations with other activists and artists, and from many years of relationship building with people inside prison, and from researching my grandfather's own political imprisonment. So this, class of 2014, is the kind of scholarship that I strive for and that I believe we need more of. And that scholarship that's accountable to communities outside of academic institutions, scholarships that is more than just, quote, socially engaged or vaguely gesturing towards political change, but that's actually embedded within movements and within communities. And scholarship that lasts for longer than the duration of a thesis or a project deadline, but is in it for the long haul. So sometimes these roads that I'm trying to forge don't meet up. And when I ask myself, what is the role of the artist in organizing, and how can art be used in movement building? Sometimes the answer is that it can't, and art is not the answer, and critical theory is also often not the answer, believe it or not. And I think it's important that we take off our hats as artists and as critical theorists and instead be community member, be advocate, be ally, be a student. And I say this to remind those of us privileged enough to have access to institutions like CCA of the necessity of humility as we move forward on our paths. And I think at our best, as visual and cultural critics and as artists, we experience the richness and possibility in existing in all of these different worlds and in speaking across difference and seeing our work resonate beyond classrooms and mobilizing our work for more and more community and more justice. And I think at our best we do this with humility and with integrity and with love. So I count myself as part of the CCA community that is so excited to see what bridges you guys build and what paths you forge. And I also personally hope you enjoy this period of time before your student loans kick in. And I just, again, feel so grateful to be chosen. Thank you so much. You all did a fantastic job. Thanks, guys.
All right. So what a beautiful day. All that remains to be done is to celebrate, and I invite you all to join us over across Hooper in the Grad Center in the atrium, where we will have plenty of time to talk and toast each other and sort of debrief after all of these heady presentations, and after all of the work that we've all done this year. And just want to say, shoot. Oh my gosh. I just want to say I'm just so proud to be part of this community and to watch you grow. It's so heartening, it really is.